Zoning Board of Appeals meeting in the Great Hall, second floor, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts. Tonight, we have 3 cases and some informal business to take care of. And I think that we can get through it fairly quick. Our first case is case number 4139, Robert Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Case number 4139. The Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass., on Monday, November 18th, 2024, at 7 p.m. to hear the petition of Robert Bacon requesting a special permit required per Section 205-9 TC and Use Table A3 to convert an existing two-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling on the property of 402 Court Street, shown as Lot 25 on Plat 1 of the Assessor's Map dated January 1, 2024, in a TC zone. The petitioner or his or her representative and any other person desiring to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Seated on this case will be Mr. Leary, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Conroy, Mr. Connor, and myself. Who will be presenting?
Bacon?
What street? Good evening. Go right ahead.
So, I'm a lifetime from the president.
Your name first, please. Okay.
402 Court Street. So I've owned this property since 2006. Is that better? Yeah. Cool, all right. So I've owned this property since 2006, and my proposal here is to just add a little efficiency in our apartment in the basement, changing it from the existing two-family that it is now into ostensibly a three-family. So far, the only issue that we've had was with the parking. So my proposal is to pay into the, we did look at whether it was feasible to do parking on site, but it would have, amounted to be just basically a parking lot with a house on it. So my proposal is to pay into the Park Plymouth Fund and then move forward with the project.
Okay. Questions? Any preliminary questions from the board? Go right ahead, please.
Okay, so I looked at the 2 things, but you looked at because you do have the space over the side where the walkways were, to extend the parking, you didn't think?
Well, it's my understanding, because initially that was what I talked about. I had to get the site plans drawn up. Mm-hmm. And the person who did that, obviously he does a lot of larger projects than this, so
Right.
and apparently you need a turnaround for the cars. We have
Right.
we park 4 people in that driveway all the time anyway. Well, usually it's 3 cars, but we fit 4 in there for many years. And I thought, well, I'll just add like another space up front, but apparently you need a turnaround and all
Right.
that. And at that point, they were going into the backyard, and then, I don't know if you know North Plymouth, there's a whole wall, a stone wall that's been there since, Cordage. It's just, it didn't seem plausible, And again, I'd end up with, 6 inches of lawn in a parking lot for a yard. I don't think that works. I don't think that's in line with the aesthetics of what we're going for in a building like that in North Plymouth,
Okay. And I noticed you're compliant, the entrance to that bottom apartment is on the side, so that's compliant with the bylaw, so that's fine. Other than that, I think I'm fine with it.
I just don't like this parking.
Pardon me?
I just don't like this parking fund thing.
None of us do, but it's out of our hands.
Yeah, I know.
David, would you like to chime in on anything?
Just want to make sure the window, one of the windows passes muster for safety. Is it sufficient size to satisfy the fire department and public safety?
I spoke with the fire department, and the plan is to have the bedroom be right at the door. So there wouldn't be a window that fits that climb-out window thing. There isn't any space for that, and the setback doesn't allow for it on the other side of the house. So the simple, actually, I'm sorry, not the fire department, the building department. I spoke with the building department, and the simple solution is to have the room right there, the bedroom, there's the egress in the bedroom.
Yeah, 'cause the-
Full-size walkout stairwell.
Okay, because the plan shows two other windows, so those
Those are
windows,
basement windows.
those
And
windows would not be the point of egress, it would be,
The setback on that side is, because it's a historic house, is 5 feet. It's not the traditional 10-foot. So there isn't a plausible means to get that or to excavate that with a stone foundation. So the reasonable answer was to simply put the bedroom with a doorway right there that you could walk outside.
The
And of course, there's 2 means
doorway's
of
in the
egress.
bedroom.
yeah, no, I can see that, but,
Yeah, because that was kind of the peculiar, but I figured, well, there isn't a lot of room down there. But it is peculiar to have the door in the bedroom.
Yeah, it's only gonna be 500 square feet, so,
Yeah, and you
It's-
have 2 means of egress, because you got the other stairs going up to the other floor, so.
exactly.
Yeah.
Out to the main hallway in the front.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, initially we had thought, but then in the interest of safety, it made a lot more sense to have that bedroom be right there so they could, you know, anybody could escape.
Yep.
that was my only question, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna, have you anything else you'd like to, I'm gonna open this to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this petition? Seeing no one, I am going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. Have you anything else you would like to add to this?
Well, I think it should be a simple project, really. So a couple of partition walls, you know?
Okay. This is going to be for board discussion only. This is just the 5 of us. Have you,
I'm all set with it.
Okay.
okay.
Yep, all my questions been answered.
I'm going to ask the building inspector, I would like everybody to look at the conditions for this, please. There are 3 here. And the second one, I would like the building inspector to chime in on.
So
Have you
I read through,
anything?
Jason Silva, Inspectional Services, so I did read through the conditions. Department of Public Works and Fire Department, I think they're fairly standard. There's some references to water issues and things like that, that when the building permit is requested, we'll ensure that those are taken care of. So if you'd like to, you know, continue to use those, I don't find any problem with that.
Okay, good. But where it specifically mentioned your department,
Yep.
I wanted to make sure you weighed in on that.
Yeah, the lien certificate is no problem, and the comments coming out of both of those are standard comments.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, does anybody else have anything? Okay, well, Michael?
I'm going to make a motion that we approve case number 4139 with the 3 conditions listed on the report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Leary to approve case number 4139 with the 3 conditions that were in the planning board report. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you,
Go
sir.
right ahead.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much. righty. We're going to move on to case number 4141, Kathleen and James DuBois, 163A Herring Pond Road. Who will be presenting? Please, come to the microphone.
Want me to read it in?
Yes.
Thank you,
Before
Mr.
anything,
Chairman.
we have to read the legal ad into the record, please.
Case number 4141, the Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass., on Monday, November 18, 2024, at 7 p.m. to hear the petition of James and Kathleen Dubois requesting a special permit required per Section 203-9C to expand or alter a pre-existing non-conforming use and structure to construct an addition on a lot with more than one single-family dwelling on the property of 163A Herring Pond Road, shown as Lot 12-4 on Plat 57 of the Assessor's Maps dated January 1, 2024, in an R25 zone. The petitioner or his or her representative and any other person desiring to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Seated on this will be Mr. Connor, Mr. Conroy, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Leary, and myself. And your name, please?
My name is Jeannie Curran. Is this on? Yes, it is. Jeannie Curran. And I'm
Closer to that.
Yeah,
the homeowner representative for the Dubois.
Okay. Go right ahead.
Okay, so we're seeking a special permit, as you mentioned, specifically because there are two dwellings on this lot. This lot has been in Mr. Dubois' family since the Depression. He has recently retired from the family business. He has a sibling on the left and a sibling on the right who also have lots as well. Apparently, early on, it was one big family lot. And when the parents got older, they subdivided it, and each child got a section. Jim inherited the one with the two lots, the two properties. The property that's closest to the pond is the one that we're discussing. That is more of a functional home at the moment. It's a little bit better than a cottage. The one closest to the road is a cottage. And does not, it has water and has electricity, but it's not insulated, doesn't have heat or anything. It's used primarily in the summertime for summer use. They sold their home in Weymouth when Jim recently retired, and their goal is to make that their primary residence, the house closest to the pond. Do I just click this to move to the next? So let me go back. So that's how it is right at the moment. That's the existing conditions. I would like to mention, too, that it has already been cleared through conservation with a couple of little things, adhering to the protection of the water and also removing a couple of little pine trees. Okay. Sorry. Okay. And this is what they are proposing to do. So hard. I'm going to look at this because I can see this better. So they consider the facing from, if you turn around when you're standing at the pond, if you turn around and face the home, they're considering that the front elevation. So at the moment, right now, the home is actually consists of an open floor plan of a kitchen and family room and I would call it more like a 1.5 bedroom. One of the bedrooms is very small and has a washer and dryer in it, and it has a small bathroom off that, and then there's a very small, which is like their primary bedroom at the moment. So the plan is to take the main living area and extend it towards the pond by 12 feet by 22 feet. Currently, the home is 22 feet wide by 36 feet. So they would increase that to an additional 12 feet by the 22 feet. That would then allow them to extend the living space into that area and create a larger kitchen, making it more of a functional year-round home. Also, I would mention, currently, there is a walkout basement with a one-car garage that's underneath it. By adding that 12 feet, they are able to then add a second-car garage, being that they both have a vehicle and they're going to be living there year-round. So that would be on that side, off the existing foundation. The next item that they want to do is, there's an existing deck right now. They are going to remove that, and then they're going to come off of what is existing family room now, off that, and they're going to create a master suite. The bedroom is going to be 16 by 14 with a walk-in master closet that I think is about 6 feet by 5 feet, and along with a bathroom, a master bathroom off that as well in that space. And then in front of that area, they're wanting to add a sunroom with a covered porch off of that. So that is the plan. Also, this is going to bring that property completely up to code. We will be changing the cesspool that's there now to a Title V approved septic system that is designed to service both homes, the front cottage and then the primary home, along with a new well. They are working with Engineer Works at the moment for a design for that. And basically, it'll be a brand-new house, and that's what they're asking.
Yeah. I was reading, and Peter, you have anything you would like to ask?
I'm gonna add something later, but I mean, mine's basically is, you did get conservation, I saw that.
Mhm.
But you do have to go to Board of Health, and one of the things.
Yep.
You will have to, if we pass it tonight, to come back in an informal with a plan with that on it, both, because ours does require that.
Yes,
as a
it's an
fire.
automatic fail, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you would have to come back as an informal on that.
Yep.
For septic and well, because we need that on our.
Mm-hmm.
I will mention currently the well is in the basement, so we definitely need to bring that into, and I'm not an expert, but I think it's too close to the cesspool, so we're going to
And
relocate.
Also, drains for the gutters, and are they, now, if they even, I went down there today, I didn't notice the driveway, I saw with the DPW, they said something about putting this, fixing it back up. It didn't look all that bad to me, but I assume you'll be doing that.
Yeah, the plan is to, so you were there today, did you go all the way up to look at it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's basically two roads that go up to the
Right.
house, because it used to be,
The three places, right.
yeah. So the side that has the garage would be, there, once construction's done, the goal is to pave
Okay.
that coming up. And then probably like between the two houses, there's like a little parking area, and we were talking about doing something with that, probably not paving it, but definitely put drainage in and probably do like stone, like a stone driveway there. And I think the thing that I had gotten, I think that you might be referring to, was they were mentioning about making sure that, and I assumed it was during construction, that at the aprons, they wanted to make sure that, you know, we weren't letting stuff fall
Right,
down there. So,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I had the same concerns regarding the septic and the well that Michael's already addressed.
So there's two different buildings on the property currently that both have 2 bedrooms in them? Currently?
I think that's what how it's listed on the tax record, yes.
So if it has 2 bedrooms, and each one there's 4 bedrooms, and then there's another statement that it can only have 3 bedrooms, if you combine them.
According to Board of Health, based on the size of the lot, the septic system, there's only enough room for a 3-bedroom unit.
So if we have 4 bedrooms now, so are you getting rid of a bedroom?
Well, it's really not a bedroom, it's a laundry room. That's in the primary house. There is 2 bedrooms in the cottage.
So in the primary house, there's 1 bedroom?
There's 1 bedroom, but I think on the record, they probably call it 2 bedrooms because there is another room, and it's like, I mean, I can tell you how big it is, but it's not being used as a bedroom, it's being used as a laundry room.
Let me ask a question. Does it have a closet?
No, it does not.
Jason, is it a bedroom without a closet?
Building code really doesn't distinguish a bedroom based on its having a closet or not. Some of the health codes, sanitary codes, do make some references to closets and determinations of bedrooms or not. The building code looks at something 7 by 10 or bigger and says that as long as it has a window, an emergency escape window, it can be used as a bedroom. So depending on where you go for regulations, it gets a little bit nuanced. And so, yeah, it does come down to really, at the end of the day, how the homeowner designates it, and septic system, Title V requirements, and flows and things like that. Because we could certainly have a bedroom that meets the specifications, and there could be 3 people in it, or there could be a bedroom that's used as a sewing room. So it's usually just a good standard for other things like Title V flows and things like that. So in this case, it does sound genuine in the case that, you know, maybe somebody just had an old cottage or small house, and the room was, maybe at one point they stuffed somebody in the room, but it just became impractical, and maybe use it as a support room.
So there's only 3 bedrooms then, right now?
Well, when you look at a Title V septic system, typically the minimum size for a new system that's built is a 3-bedroom. You can't build it, to the best of my knowledge anyways, again, not my specialty, but a septic system that's built is designed for 330 gallons per day or 3 bedrooms. Then there is no smaller system by design. Everything kind of meets that level of standard. So when you build something new, it's basically available to be used as a 3-bedroom. So if they wanted to use it as a 2-bedroom, certainly it'd be fine. If they wanted to upgrade that in the future to 3 bedrooms, they wouldn't have to dig up anything. If they wanted to make it a 4-bedroom, obviously they'd have to add some size to the affluent area.
Well, you have to keep in mind too, though, that the 2 houses share a septic. Well, right now they share a cesspool. So I think that's where the gray area of the 4-bedroom is. If there's 2 in that, and technically on the tax record there's 2 over here, that's 4 bedrooms. So the notice that I got from the Board of Health was that the existing bedroom couldn't be any larger They actually gave me a size. I don't think they consider a closet anymore. I think it's a size.
Excuse me, I think that number 4 in the findings,
That's what I'm reading.
that's what, yeah,
So I'm
it says we're
comparing,
limited to 3 bedrooms.
so I'm comparing
On
2 and
lots.
4.
Okay.
So in the findings, I'm looking at 2 and 4 and trying to figure out what's happening.
Right, okay,
And I don't really follow.
but it explains what a bedroom is, I guess. Yeah,
So like 2 says that there's 2 in each, so the findings number 2 says that there's 2 bedrooms in each of those. Then number 4 says you can only have 3. So I'm wondering what's going to happen. So if we had 4 under number 2, 4 bedrooms, how can number 4 be, they don't make sense together.
In the findings maybe, but like she says, there is only 3 bedrooms that exist, you know, that they use.
So I just think from our decision standpoint, we have to be more clear than 2 and 4.
It says that she's, or is it she? Yeah, she is saying that a bedroom is defined as at least 7 by 10 feet, ceiling height of at least 7 feet, heated, and has a window. She also mentions that together, they can only have 3 bedrooms. Let me see, I have the tax, let me see what it says on the taxes.
Well, I mean, the decision they're talking about, I wasn't here for that, that was even before Mike's time. But when they separated those 3 lots, they said that there could only be the 3 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. So that's on the special permit, that's on the deed anyways, that's, you know, they go to sell it, anything else, that's already there, period. So, they couldn't put the 4th bedroom anyway. Well, or the town, let's put it this way, if somebody complained, the town could go down and deal with it.
So number 2, you're saying, so we have a 2-bedroom cottage and a 2-bedroom single-family that's on one lot. So that's after the division.
Correct. No, that was before.
That's before the division.
Yep, those houses are existing.
So then the case created 3 lots. The decision noted that there were 2 dwellings on this lot, as well as 2 dwellings on the second lot. So the 2 dwellings on this lot is what we're talking about here. So in relation to currently these 2 dwellings, how many bedrooms are in each of these 2 dwellings currently?
I would say.
You'd
I
say
would say
4.
I would say 4, only because that's, I think, how it's recorded. But they don't, that bedroom, what they're calling the 4th, let's call it the cottage that sits closest to the road is for sure a 2-bedroom, has 2 beds in it. It's used in the summer. Their children, she has 2 children, they stay there. The house we're discussing, that has a bedroom and a very small room after, like next to it, that has the washer and dryer in it. It is not, it's not being used as a bedroom, but based on the size of it, because it's saying,
It can be a bedroom.
7 by 10.
And then number 2 says the addition's going to include a primary bedroom suite.
we're converting the existing bedroom into
To a larger bedroom.
a larger bedroom. Yes.
So the way we could deal with that is, in ours, we could put a condition that when it goes to the building inspector, or building commissioner, for a permit, that they make sure there's only 3 bedrooms on the new permit. That's it.
Or even be more explicit, there's no more than 1 bedroom in this expanded structure.
Correct.
So there's no more than 3 bedrooms on the site.
Correct.
So just, instead of just saying, comply with the Board of Health and DPW, have a more explicit condition reinforcing maximum 3 bedrooms. And that this renovation and expansion be limited to 1 bedroom. I mean, then it's consistent with Board of Health and basically is
Correct,
just clarifying or updating the tax records.
correct, because that is the only property that is being modified. The other one is not. So that's going to stay
So
what it
that
is.
makes sense, David.
All right,
Yes, fine.
all right.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter much, but there's a difference in the layouts on the first page and the last page, right? As far as the house itself. But it says the last page is a topographic anyway, I think, so. It's, yeah, the addition part is different. Maybe that's what they refer to.
Between E1 and A1?
Yeah, I'm good. See, this one here, 26 by 16, doesn't show that on the last page. I think the first page is the more accurate one.
Yeah, you see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, Peter. And that is the difference. Anything else?
Nope.
No, I'm just reading the original special permit to see if it mentioned the three.
I think it does.
I'm
think
trying
it
to find it.
Yes.
I just have a question, or more or less discussion directly for the board. If you want, I could wait. If you want, I can bring it to you while it's still open in this hearing. I'll fire it away. So I think one of the conditions that Lee and I discussed, which is a carry forward from the 2001, I think, decision, was that there only be a single year-round residence.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, and I didn't think of it till just recently, point out the new Governor's Acts of 2024 and the ADU bylaw, ADU law, which allows for, and it's actually in, Chapter 48, Section 3, can't unreasonably regulate. And didn't know whether you wanted to consider that as it relates to the conditioning of the cottage and the limitations of that, and whether you wanted to consider that at all.
That's an interesting,
But if we designate it as an ADU, then it becomes a full-time.
full, and that was not the intent, right?
Well, no, but I would argue that effectively by you conditioning the special permit the way that it's been suggested, it would eliminate the individual's rights to exercise their rights under
Right, their
48,
right
Section
would be-
3, and
yeah.
could be construed as unreasonably regulating them. And I'd rather you guys make that decision instead of I later.
So-
No, and I agree with you there, because that's when the ADUs pass, that's one of the things that I was
So it could be further conditioned to exclude that provision, but otherwise, I don't know how big the cottage is. If it's over 900 square feet, then clearly it's not eligible. But if it is 900 or to be used as 900 square feet, then I would, again, reasonably argue that, you could take both positions, that exercising the special permit's taking that, but otherwise, I don't know that it would actually give the board the right to say that they don't have the right to build an ADU. So I just wanted to put that out there in advance of it, and whether you wanted to consider it or not.
But doesn't the Board of Health, I mean, a three-bedroom maximum govern?
Well, Title V is going to govern either way, and you can absolutely, with the special permit, in my opinion anyways, include whatever conditions you want. However, when they contradict a state law that is in state 48, Section 3, specifically areas where municipalities do not have the right to regulate, I would say that you can't by proxy remove someone's right. But again, I just wanted to bring it for your
Okay,
consideration.
so if we were to eliminate that 8 months a year clause, it would still remain, if it was an ADU, that there can still only be 3 bedrooms on that piece of property.
That's correct. You could limit that. And again, I don't see that as an issue. Has nothing to do with the ADU law.
How many square
Actually, we
feet?
don't have the size of the cottage.
Yeah.
How big is that cottage? The cottage itself?
seasonal
not the-
cottage.
I'm not sure. I have no idea. It's,
We need
it's,
better plans.
I don't even know
Well, I
if there
don't-
are plans for the cottage. It was built in a long time ago, in the 50s, I think.
I thought the plans were large scale and, you know, showed a one-bedroom expansion in that particular building. I was okay with the plan.
Yeah, the question was,
Does it, I
Oh,
I
off
have
the plan.
the warranty deed, did it say that on there?
Yeah,
How many it is?
900 square feet.
under 900 square.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna make a measuring tool, so I can measure it.
That's what I was trying to do too.
So,
Is it what, is it one
yeah,
story?
it's about 22 by,
22 wide?
I know how
yeah.
big the.
So it's
the-
over 900. Yeah, it's gonna be over 900, so it would be over the size of an ADU.
Yeah, so it looks like it's 22 by, you know, almost 30.
Yeah.
And an ADU can only be up to 900 square feet?
Maximum, yeah.
Is that-
So I think, again, these are things the state hasn't thought through in its entirety, and this is a good example. So let's just say you condition it as you have right now, that this secondary structure, as it would be, is to remain an 8-month or less, living unit. They still would have their right, under the laws, to exercise an ADU, come in by right, and file a building permit with us and build an ADU. I can't see how we could take away that right, but what I see is just otherwise, it seems like within this special permit, you're saying you can only have one year-round dwelling, and the state has said very specifically, you can have 2, as long as the second one's 900 square feet or more, less, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think as long as the decision is written that it doesn't necessarily contradict the state's law, but is making sure that it's in keeping with it.
But if it,
I think the board's, at least to my mind, the board's 2001 decision, as well as today, is to make the secondary structure subordinate, incidental to the main home.
Right.
Which is exactly what the state's law is kind of directing, right? One's bigger, one's main, one's smaller, one's secondary. And as long as you're following that construct without contradicting, saying year-round, because the state's very specific to say it can be year-round, not 8 months.
I don't think,
So we're back to 3 bedrooms. That's what's
Is
gonna
ADU
regulate
like
this.
an
Right.
Is a
accessory,
3
like an
bedroom, so
in-law?
I understand what he's saying. So I don't have a problem if we have to get rid of that condition because we're still relying on the 3 bedrooms.
well, the only thing worries me about that is, okay, so the original permit was given out that one of them is not to be a full-time, year-round resident. So in order to change that, you actually have to modify
that,
the special permit. Because this exists by a special permit. It was one large lot you guys did well, I don't know who, if anyone,
Peter.
but it was.
I was there.
Oh, okay.
Let's blame Peter.
Yeah, exactly. So.
When you're old.
By variance, they separated the lots, and that is in there. So we'd have to actually modify that special permit to change that.
That wasn't a special, it was a variance.
Well, a variance, but, I mean, but it's still under a special permit, yeah. So you'd have to modify it. You couldn't, I don't think you could drop that legally. I don't know, am I wrong, Jason, or?
No, I think, you know, the actions that were taken in 2001, and I think,
Hey, Jason, we knew what we were doing.
there was a variance, yeah.
Yeah.
Variance is gonna stick with the land, and I'd say that, you know, that it's gonna, obviously, the creation of it is. The variance, I believe, sticks with the land and is gonna allow for its creation and stick with it, and that the special permits would layer over the top of it should any exist, you know, so, I think the condition of the variance, again, it depends. I'm not a lawyer, and
Right.
I'm sorry for bringing up those kinds of issues, but I think it's, again, important for these things to at least be on the board's mind, knowing that the new state's law is going to affect these kinds of things that, and clearly in 2001, what the norm was to have only one dwelling, whereas now this is the new norm. So in your decisions, you're going to have to think to make sure that you're not contradicting it as well, because from my standpoint, it's going to be, I can't unreasonably regulate, and neither can you. And so if this applicant came back to me in 2 months or 3 months to convert this to an ADU, what do I do?
If it's over
I have to
900
say
square
yes.
feet, what do you do?
If it's over 900 square feet, it is not allowed to use the exemptions under the state law, and it must follow if there is any local permitting requirements or be denied. But if it's 900 square feet or less, meets the state law, it's in, you know, and obviously has Title V, has every other applicable regulation in place, sanitary code, all that, it gets approved. So you know, the law effectively allows for 2 dwellings on every
If it's only
lot
one
that's
floor,
reasonably sized and reasonably
close.
located, as long as they can meet Title V requirements and all that.
And
If the decision says the current structure can only can be used for 8 months, then it's fine. Current structure. If they want to amend the structure and bring it smaller, it's fine.
It is.
But the current structure is proposed. If our
Yeah.
decision says that the current structure is subject to this limitation, then the decision's fine. It doesn't contradict. Because then they'd have to apply to.
I'm not sure that the suggestion by the planning board was to call the second, like, the decision from the 2001 variance talks about, it classifies, it says there shall be only one year-round dwelling per lot, but there is no definition of year-round. And so you have to come up with what represents year-round, and Lee and I hashed it out and went 8 months seems to be this kind of industry standard of when a structure becomes occupied year-round, it's more than 8 months, and so that's why I think that was used, so that the board could have some imagery of what represented year-round and not year-round, because it's, again, not further defined, nor was it in 2001, and so carrying that forward to today, the board could exercise whatever definition within the decision they wanted. And again, I merely only pointed that out because it could contradict what otherwise is allowed under state law. If it was
I think
written
we're going
that
down a
way.
rabbit hole.
Right.
I think
I
this
do
is
too.
totally, it doesn't apply. I think we should make the decision, should stay under the current structure, and that's how,
I agree.
that's how it's covered, or going too far gone.
Yeah,
And I
until they
agree
come back,
because-
but you know, double checking, it's well under 900.
Because
Might be
whenever you have a
750,
special
so.
permit, you have to come back for a modification to that special permit.
So I think we're okay. I
And
think
these
we're
were
fine.
recreated under that, so I think.
And
we
that
should
isn't
stick
even a
with-
special permit, it's a
Right,
variance.
variance, oh, no, I'm just saying,
So
it's
how
one step
does it,
higher.
how do we take and change a variance to a special permit so that we can modify that. You can't do that.
Well, the variance was issued creating the parcels in the current status, creating the structures and where they're located on each individual parcel. And then this special permit is clearly a request for an extension on the structure, on a structure on the lot.
Yes, but to go back to my question, how can we change that variance that much? The
No, you
whole
can't.
intent of the variance.
No, you can't change the variance. The variance
So-
stands.
So, no, we can't change it.
They're gonna be
It's 3
stuck.
bedrooms, and that's the way it's gonna stay.
Yeah.
And if the ADU thing does come up, then we'll address it then. But we're addressing something that isn't existing right now.
The decision says the current structure,
Mhm,
and we're all set. That's it.
mhm. What do you think?
I'm fine with that. I want to tighten up a condition or two, but with this issue, the ADU issue, the variance issue, just leave it as is.
Yeah,
Don't try to rewrite things.
yeah. Sorry, Jason.
No, I have no intention of asking the board to rewrite things. I only point out that if you include a condition in the special permit, that there can only be one year-round residence on the lot, I cannot enforce that.
Well,
If it's
Whatever.
requested in the context I described earlier.
then at that point,
That's fine.
it's out of our
Yeah,
hands.
That's fine, I
they can
understand.
call Rob.
As it is in many other situations, meaning that with this ADU law.
Okay, so we're gonna move on, because this is taking more time than it needs to be. I'm gonna open, have you anything else you would like to add at this point?
I just want to make sure I understand this properly, because, so, the special permit or variance was when they divided these lots, correct? Okay, and it's saying that that particular piece, because there's 3, that one has 2, but also this one has 2 houses on it. So when they divided, okay, the front cottage, which is not the one we're talking about doing anything to, you're concerned that if you write in that whole thing, that at some point, they may come forward and say, this is an in-law apartment, and they want, right? And then that would have to go back
They're
and
saying that
change.
that front structure is, they're concerned about that becoming an ADU.
Okay.
That's the concern.
Down the line, maybe.
Down the line.
Okay.
And so the board's concerned and the
Okay.
building instructor about
Okay.
how do we draft an opinion when we have this outside law, and how it's being
Right.
finalized
Okay.
is under the current structure.
Right, I got
That
it.
there
I
should be 8
understand it
months
correctly.
on it.
But Jason's right, though, it really isn't, you almost can't enforce that as a part-time resident,
But
no.
remember, as the current structure,
Right,
we're only doing this size.
Right.
That's what the current structure. So we're going down the rabbit hole.
well, and that's why I don't think we
need.
need to go there. Just for her explanation, that's all that is we want, you
I
know, 'cause-
understand that. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding.
How'd I do?
You did great.
Thank you.
I think you said that like 10 times. Nobody listened to you.
But I'm the only one that had it.
All right, let's move on here. I'm gonna open this to public comment now.
Sure.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak about this case, either in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to board discussion. Please.
So I think the biggest issue will be how the decision is written. I'm in favor of it, but the decision needs to be improved by what's on the planning board. And that's my position.
Then we've got to do that.
Yeah, and I think David had come up with some language regarding 3 bedrooms on site, 1 bedroom in the house, so I'm going to defer to him on that. How you want to word that?
Yeah, I'll work on that. You know,
Well, start working.
okay.
Do it right now.
You gotta do it now.
I will. Wait, I also want to make sure, you know, Mike mentioned, but specific reference to adding dry wells for the gutter. Because having looked at the contours and the shape of the land, that's really important. Otherwise, you'll have erosion from the new structure.
And it doesn't need to all go down into the pond anyway.
Right.
Peter?
Now, I think, are we thinking that we would add in David's suggestion about the bedroom?
I think that's what Michael is
Yes.
suggesting, and
Okay,
I'm
then
gonna,
I'm okay on that.
I mean, yeah, the one thing for sure, if we do this, I mean, I wanted them to come back in an informal with the septic system, the well, and a dry well for the gutters on the plan, because that should have been on this and has to be on the one we file. I would think, after our discussion, should we remove the 8 months of a calendar year, just put that as a seasonal dwelling period
Yes,
and end it there?
I agree with that, but I agree that that needs to be done, but I wonder, can we really do that? Can we change a variance?
Well, it doesn't say 8 months of the year, it says a seasonal dwelling on that, I thought.
Well,
And, I mean, that goes back to the 2001 decision, because they don't define what seasonal is there.
Well,
So
but
that
I-
would be consistent with the original
my thought is
decision.
you leave it as written, since Jason says he and Lee have discussed this, and that's what they think a reasonable interpretation still is, or whatever.
All right. So your feeling is leave it the way the staff sent us?
Yeah, and then let them file and get it changed. Because we don't know the extent of the ADU bylaw right now.
But the one thing too, Jason, question for you. Town meeting, didn't we supersede in town meeting past 1,200 square feet? David, you were working on it.
I don't remember. We,
I thought it was 900.
yeah, it was
I thought
900.
It was a 9?
Yeah,
That's correct. It's
which
900,
is also
yeah.
the state law.
No, I know the state set the 9, but we could oversee that. For some reason, I remember something being on town meeting at 1,200.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's, you know, at the discussion, you know, an impassioned citizen said, 900 is too small. I'd like the option to
Oh, okay.
build something. So you may be right, that,
Yeah.
that almost at town meeting floor, they've changed it from 900 to 1,200.
Yeah.
So what was approved at town meeting was 900,
That was the eventual
Period.
vote?
yes.
Okay.
All right, what are we doing here?
All right, so I'll make a motion that we,
Are we gonna add?
yeah, I thought we already had it.
Let's get
Well,
that,
I have a proposed simple sentence
okay,
that would be the expanded structure on the western side of the site, there's two buildings, so I want to identify which one, shall be limited to one bedroom.
that's the one closest to the pond.
Right. We could
Okay.
say closest to the pond, but I was using the points of the compass. Yeah. And because we know the Board of Health is limited to 3 bedrooms, but I just wanted to specify this particular expanded building where they're asking for the enlargement limited to 1 bedroom, which they've said they plan to do anyway.
Yeah, master bedroom.
Yep.
So that would be condition number 6? I mean, no, excuse me.
Could be
Number
4, you
4?
could renumber.
Yeah,
And then,
And then if we want to add, the specificity of roof drainage shall be into dry wells. Again, that is a request from I think the DPW suggested it. So you could say it was already there, but on the other hand, we could be explicit, because I think it's important on that site.
And I would think that's number 6, that we could say they come back with septic, well, and dry well for the gutter.
So, now, what was 5? I was just writing 4.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That's
Oh, okay, that's 5, yeah, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep.
So
Yeah.
5 is you want them to come back.
Dry well septic.
And an informal with the,
To show the well, septic, and dry wells.
With a stamped. Septic and well,
Drainage
and
wells,
what,
septic system.
what about the improvements to the driveway?
I think, was that in there? I mean, it's in the findings, I don't see it in here. I suppose we could add that as
Yeah.
a condition number 6.
Yep.
Well, that was the DPW who said that, right?
So, do you want,
Yeah, 6 would be that we would, that they have to improve to DPW's,
Specifications.
specifications,
recommendation?
recommendations, yeah, we could do that, recommendation.
To DPW. Okay. Anything else? Ed?
Good.
Peter, you're good? All right, Michael?
I'm all set, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve case number 4141 with the 6 conditions discussed.
Did you get all 6 of those?
The last one is vague.
So write it that way. No, the last one was that we want the driveway to come up to the DPW's recommended standards.
No recommendation, yeah.
You want a second? I'll second.
Peter? Six conditions. Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Leary to approve case number 4141 with the 6 conditions. Do you understand all 6 Okay. Yeah, yes, definitely. But I want to make sure that you understand them and agree to them. And there are 3 conditions that were written by the planning board, and we've added that it can only be that the 1 bedroom in the building to the west, or closest to the pond, that it will remain 3 bedrooms on the site, period. That you have to come back with a stamped plan that shows where the septic is, where the well is, where the roof drains are, and how you are going to address the roof drains and runoff. That would be condition number 5. And condition number 6 is to bring the driveway up to the DPW's recommended standards. Okay? All right. And Jason, is that going to be okay with you? Okay, good. All right. I have a motion by Mr. Leary and a second by Mr. Connor with the 6 conditions. All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. You can go ahead. And when you will get a hold of Denise when the time comes that you want to come back with the plan and everything, and she will set a date for you. Thank you. All right, we have one more case. Oh, okay. All right. But before we start this next case, we're going to take a 5-minute break. You're a piece of work. We're back in session. Our next case is case number 4136, 227 Cherry Street Investments. Who will be representing? Rob?
Want me to read it?
Yeah, oh,
No.
yes, but hold on.
Hang on, Rob.
No, did
Oh,
you
Did you already read it in?
last?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
Thank you. Case number 4136, the Plymouth Zoning Board of Appeals on the zoning bylaw will hold a public hearing in the 1820, well, not the 1820 courtroom, at Town Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Mass, on Monday, October, I'm reading the wrong one.
Yeah,
I'm
but
reading-
that's okay.
that's all
Just
right.
change the date. It's the same
To
thing.
November 18th, 2024 at 7 PM to hear the petition of Stephen and Vance Almeida requesting a special permit required per section 203-7J to waive a number of required parking spaces and per section 203-2B, 2D, 2B to waive development site boundary for a slope that exceeds 2-to-1 within 10 feet of an abutting lot to construct a warehouse for indoor recreational equipment and vehicle storage on the property of 227 Cherry Street, shown as Lot 8B-2A on Plat 102 of the Assessor's Map dated January 1, 2023, in an MC zone. The petitioner or his or her representative or any other person desiring to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Seated on this case will be Mr. Connor, Mr. Conroy, Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Leary, and myself. And Mr. D'Ambrosio will be presenting.
Thanks, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the ZBA. Nice to see you all. And Jason, nice to see you in your new office here, too. Rob D'Ambrosio for the record. As Mr. O'Reilly pointed out, I'm here representing 227 Cherry Street Investments, LLC, which is the petitioner for this project at 227 Cherry Street. So Chris King is the principal behind the applicant. He's here with us. Ben King, no relation, and Rich Tabazinski from Atlantic Design and Engineers are my civil team. They're here as well. So I thought I'd give you just an overview of where this site is. It's a proposed warehouse for storage of vehicles, luxury vehicles, boats, kind of a white shoe, white glove service. But here's where it is. So this is, pull out my pointer here. So this is Cherry Street, Prestige Way up into the Amazon area, Franklin Webb, and, going highway here, as you can see. So 227 Cherry Street. And this is a colorized plan. This actually isn't the latest slide, but it's the colorized one that I had, and gives you kind of a good visual representation. So again, this warehouse has 120,000 square feet of gross floor area, 80,000 on the first floor, and then there's a mezzanine level that's half that size for another 40,000 square feet. We've got parking here closer to Cherry Street. Now, as you can see, Cherry Street kind of runs in this orientation, but we've got parking here and here. 60 parking spaces, which is far more than needed, and we'll get into that because that's one of the relief items. And then we've got ample circulation here. Fire department's blessed the circulation. There'll be trailers coming in and out to load this warehouse with boats during the wintertime and other luxury vehicles that want to be kept in a nice climate-controlled, stable environment. So I've got a couple renderings here. The planning board had asked, staff had actually asked to get a look at it, said, well, to the extent it's visible from Cherry Street, we'd like to see something that's visually appealing. So, we had these renderings cooked up. So again, here's sort of the parking area off to the side. You got a better look at it here, some signage on the corner. And this is another view of the front sort of from above here. Again, that's that smaller parking area directly adjacent. This is the large overhead bay for entrance into the middle of the building. There's a couple other exterior doors, overhead doors, as you can see here. And then again, this is a view sort of from dead on if you're looking at the front of the building. So we're in the MC district, mixed commerce zoning district. In this district, warehousing is a by right use, but we're here, of course, for the relief that was specified. I'll get into that. I talked about, the size of the facility and what it'll be used for. We're not seeking to exceed the 35-foot height limitation, no dimensional relief, no setback relief, so I think we've got a relatively clean project in terms of zoning. Of course, we do have the two requests. One of these, I think, is something that this board has granted before for similar storage uses, warehousing uses, particularly in the self-storage category. If you went by the book here, by the parking table in the zoning bylaw, it would call for 96 parking spaces. That's based on the 1,500 square feet per space for warehouse space, and then I think it's 250 square feet per space for office space. There's a very small ancillary office space here. That would put us to 96 spaces. Again, this will be, to some degree, seasonal storage, so I'd be surprised if you have more than 5 people parking there at any one time. It's kind of like along lines of self-storage. People may come in to get a boat, drop off a boat, come look at their nice vintage automobile, have a cup of coffee and leave, but, you wouldn't expect there to be much traffic flow. This is not a retail site in any sense. So we propose 60 parking spaces. We want to blow it out and say 15. We think 60 is, again, far more than needed, but it is a reduction from what the parking table calls for. And I'll get into why we think that's an appropriate number a little bit more. And then slope. This site has some steep topography, particularly around the perimeters. It is a cleared site, so right now it's a vacant site. It's been cleared, but at the periphery of the site, there's some steep slopes. They're going to be graded out, and in some cases, they'll exceed 2 to 1 when we get close to the lot line. And in that case, you do need a special permit, so that's the other relief item that we're asking for today. Let's see, parking, so I don't know if you can read this too clearly, but again, these are some analogous parking data. A couple in town here, that Natalie Way self-storage facility, Holman Road, kind of behind the Wendy's. I permitted both of those, as a matter of fact. And you can see that, you can see the number of spaces per 10,000 square feet. Again, I'm actually having trouble reading it, but it's well below where we'd be at 96 feet. Let me leave it at that. It's a fraction of what you would see. And again, to my knowledge, there's been no issues with these local ones. And again, here are some data points of some public storage and extra space storage facilities in other municipalities throughout Massachusetts. Again, in some cases, you've got a 100,000 square foot facility with 5 parking spaces, so just give you an idea that it's typical for these storage uses to have far fewer spaces than 96, really far fewer than 60 even, so that's how we get to that. And again, I'm happy to kind of give you chapter and verse on this if you'd like, but I've made similar presentations in the past, and I think that's, somewhat established that you don't need all the spaces that the parking table calls for. There isn't a storage category, it's just warehousing. So these are existing conditions. As I mentioned, we've got a cleared site. There's some pavement here on the site, but again, it's pretty cleared. You can see the contours to the site. I should mention that we're going to come in and file an A&R in the future with the planning board to redraw the lot line. This portion here is actually all of this site, this lot and the lot next door are owned by the Almeida family. The current lot line is here. That's going to get pushed out, I can't remember, how far has it been, about 50 feet or so? That lot line is going to get pushed back with the A&R plan. So the site plans we've submitted show it with this configuration, but for that to occur, in fact, we're going to need this A&R plan to get approved, just so you know. I know that was in the narrative, but I wanted to point that out. Again, here's the layout. I kind of went through it already, so I'm not going to belabor it. Landscaping plan, we did beef the landscaping plan up. We've been through North Plymouth Steering. They were favorable to the plan. Planning board, and one of the things they asked for was, could you please beef up landscaping? So we took another cut at that. There are more plantings now. Again, I think that the concern was, well, let's make sure that these slopes aren't denuded, that they got something on them. So there's quite a few more plantings here than we showed initially. And then, of course, there was a concern that there wasn't a prominent large warehouse visible from Cherry Street, so there's quite a bit of planting here in these islands, as you can see. I tallied them up. I think we've got 197 plantings proposed, 60 trees, about 80 shrubs, and then some perennials. So, again, the applicant took a nice cut at beefing this up when the planning board asked for it. In terms of while I'm talking about other permitting bodies, DPW's taken 3 cuts at this now. We've responded twice. We've got their 3rd letter, I think, just last Friday. All but one comment are satisfied at this point. And that last one is really, it's partially satisfied, and it's kind of couched as a recommendation. We can get into that, but again, we do intend to work with the DPW and hammer through that last comment that pertains to actually drainage on the adjacent lot, and make sure that DPW is fully satisfied. I didn't want to gloss over that. I'm sure you guys are aware of that and have seen that most recent letter, but DPW, we've worked with them and made a bunch of revisions at their request and got it to a point where we're awfully close here. Been a traffic study also, I'm sure you saw that, that was indicated nominal or really no impact to traffic. This is the grading and drainage plan. Again, I don't want to steal Rich and Ben's thunder, but if you want to get into it, one of the things the DPW asked for, they said, okay, on this Almeida site here, which is a salvage yard, we'd like you to, keep, make sure that the water doesn't spill over onto your site, which is a bit odd, right? Typically, the concern is make sure your water doesn't get shunted to someone else's site. In this case, that was the request, so the latest plan revision, which is excerpted here, does show a catch basin and water quality unit here on the Almeida property to capture, some of this water that would otherwise potentially flow onto our site. The one outstanding comment says, would you consider doing something in this area? Again, this is not being altered. This flow has always been in this direction, but they still said, we recommend that you consider doing something relative to drainage in this portion of the lot. So that's been an ongoing dialogue that Ben's been having with Rick Bossy. Again, we've been through 3 reviews. We think we're pretty close in terms of satisfying them, but that is the one kind of pending matter with the DPW. A&R plan, I had alluded to it, so again, this is that portion that we're going to pick up when we move the lot line over. And then we've got some elevations. I don't think there's a whole lot to see here. It's a warehouse, but wanted to make sure that we have these available if we wanted to refer to them. So that's it. And again, Rich and Ben can certainly hammer home any of these concepts or field questions on the engineering stuff. I'm happy to do my best with any other questions you guys might have. Thank you.
Questions? David?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm done presenting. Thanks. Yeah.
Two things. One is, going back to our bylaw, we've got several paragraphs there about earth removal when it's in the vicinity of 2 to 1 or worse, within the side slopes, and also if you have a cut more than 40 feet, you need to put a shelf. There's at least 2 things. I remember Michael had worked on it. Well, in fact, this is a cut of 50 feet or 55 feet from the top. The first contour is at like 170. The floor level is 150. 120, so it's down 50 feet. Excuse me. And the only way it's less than 40 is because they have the 12-foot retaining wall. So I'm worried about erosion in that steep site. So in our bylaws, we also have, there's at least 2 paragraphs, but when slopes exceed 3 to 1 grades, they may be allowed by the Board of Appeals if the slopes do not exceed the soil's natural angle of repose, and the Board of Appeals finds that the soils are suitable for steeper slopes. I don't know whether we've received any report about angle of repose, because it's 2 to 1 slope, especially the one up on the Almeida going up there. So I'm worried about that. We also have provisions that say this soils analysis shall be reviewed by the town's consulting engineers, after which the Board of Appeals will have the right to require additional alternatives. So again, the issue of those steep slopes are one I want to raise to my colleagues. And the second thing is, as an architect, especially when I looked at the elevations, it looks like a 42-foot high warehouse and storage area, and our bylaws say 35 feet. They have done creative calculation against the existing contours and so on, but by creating this near-flat space with the road around it, it's really, I think should be measured against the surrounding road. They've created a footprint for, as opposed to a building sort of built into a hill where you kind of calculate the average height. They've used creative calculation. The road around it does in fact slope, so it becomes, it goes up from 120 feet to 130 feet in the back. But it's, if you average that, that's 125 feet at the worst. So that's, drops off 5 feet from 42 to 37. So, so I think the board has the right to approve something taller than an average of 35, but they didn't ask for that in this particular thing. And then I remembered when that maritime boat study thing down in the harbor, that applicant reduced it from 45 feet to 35, so he did not need that particular relief. So those are the two major things. One is just worried about the erosion in the right soil. I'm delighted they're adding, lots of trees and stabilization, but I worry about the erosion on that steep thing. And then it would be up to you guys, but I think it's really more of something more than 35-foot high warehouse. But I just kind of throw that out. They did a calculation that, maybe we could ask the building inspector if he agrees with that calculation, but I think it's actually a little taller than 35 feet. So those are my observations on the plans, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same problems, but I did see Denise sent out a PDF that did have the soil calculations on it. You did do that for the DPW, am I correct?
Sure.
Well,
Well, if you want, it's
No,
up to
no,
you guys.
it-
Do you want answers back
Yeah.
and forth, or do you want them all at the end? Yep.
no, we'll get the answer from, because actually, that's where we're going with, it's mostly the slope.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a couple things, but I'll let you take a first cut at it if you like, Rich. Sure, I can do that now. Yeah. I mean, on the erosion topic, again, I'll let Rich speak to it, but I would point out that obviously DPW took a good hard look at this, and, they've got criteria that's implemented on the plans in their comment 7, monthly erosion control letter report stamped by a professional engineer, indicating that the erosion measures are in place and operative. Again, we did go back and forth with DPW to make sure they were comfortable with that. And, the creative calculation for the building height, I mean, that's calculated pursuant to the zoning bylaw. So I think that's a bit of, I'd object to that characterization, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's Rich Tabazinski with Atlantic Design Engineers. Regarding to the building height calculation, that's a methodology that is, as Rob had mentioned, is exactly in conformance with your zoning bylaw and in terms of the definition of building height, mean grade, original grade. And so it's measured from the existing elevations and of the four corners of the building, and that's what we used, and we have used that on other projects previously in Plymouth too. So it's we feel we stand by it, and that we are within the requirement of the 35-foot building height. So we provided a letter back in July with the original submittal, and that's basically how we've always done it, and believe that is in compliance with the zoning bylaw. In terms of the slopes on the site, basically there are two types of slopes adjacent to the property line. Is it the red one? For the,
Yeah, that one doesn't work too well.
Oh.
You can use this one.
okay. In the light green area back here is a slope at 2-to-1. And the... That's okay. Yep. And then what we've highlighted here in the brown color is a steeper slope. Basically, that's at a 1-to-1 slope. And so to handle both issues, which Rob had mentioned, were both brought up by the DPW. They had requested information on the soils and on the benching and terracing provisions. And what we had basically had said was that on the 2-to-1 slope, which meets the angle of repose for the type of material that were out there, and the existing slope that's out there basically is about a 2-to-1 right now. But we're digging into it with our new slope. But basically, we'll be providing several measures to take care of the potential for erosion of that during construction and afterwards. So on the grading plan, let's see. That, one more, okay. There it is, yep. It's probably a little hard to see. But this darker line in here is a retaining wall that will be between the building and the slope, and that will be at the maximum height is a 12-foot retaining wall. Above, right beyond on the upper side of that retaining wall will be a rock line swale that will handle any type of runoff coming down this slope, so that that's okay. So once this retaining wall is built, any runoff on this slope that comes down here isn't basically going to be spilling over the wall onto the pavement. It'll be handled in a rock line swale, which will divert it to either this detention basin or retention basin over here, or the forebay and some subsurface structures over here. And also this slope will have some intermediate erosion control measures. You can see right here and right here are two rows of intermediate erosion control measures. Basically, hay bales or those silt sock tubes that you've seen on sites near conservation areas, but those would be laid along, basically along the slope at intervals to collect any kind of erosion basically in thirds of the slope. If the slope, I think, is maybe 50 feet, maybe 50, 60 feet in width, there'll be basically a 15 to 20 foot area that will have a measure at the down gradient side of it that will collect any sediment and prevent it from eroding all the way down to the retaining wall. It'll basically be caught in these intermediate erosion control socks or hay bales or silt fence, whatever's used on that in that area. Also, there'll be, under proposed conditions, once we finalize the slope, it'll be stabilized with an erosion control blanket, basically a fabric blanket that we have a detail on our detail sheets, but basically that'll be laid along that entire slope, and then will be seeded with a New England erosion control restoration mix. The seed mix was recommended by the landscape architect, was proposed to the DPW, and they accepted this methodology in lieu of basically providing another bench or a retaining wall or something else in here to minimize this slope. So we feel it's going to be stable during and after construction. We've also provided on, I think it's sheet 10 of the site plan is a full erosion control plan, which outlines everything I'm telling you here. But that's on sheet 10 of our site plan. That was included in it. These other slopes here, due to the fact that they're steeper, they're at 1-to-1, they'll be proposed with basically a riprap slope. That will be a rock slope with erosion control fabric underneath it, and that'll, to keep that stable and in place. And that's a typical detail we've used on a number of projects, and I'm sure you've seen it along highways and other areas where there's steeper slopes in place. And those areas are basically on the south side and the west side of the site. So honestly, we feel that basically we're providing an erosion control plan that is going to be suitable for this type of soil, this type of project, and those slopes that are being proposed.
Yeah, I'm glad you did get up there, because that's the thing I noticed. I noticed the riffraff on the other one, and I thought it was on this bigger slope, so I'm glad to find out that's over there. And that, if you want to call it a gutter in a way, going across the slope halfway up, that's also riffraff?
No, that is going to be more of an erosion control device, like a filter sock or a row of hay bales or silt fence. That's basically, these intermediate ones will just be for silt. If there does happen to be some erosion coming down, it'll collect it and not allow it to keep eroding further down the slope. It's not a
So it's not
swale.
permanent, it's only temporary?
It's only temporary during construction, yes.
Okay, and then it'll have the blankets also?
Exactly, yeah, that would be placed after it's, once it's seeded, the blankets go down, and the site is planted with, based on the landscape plan. That'll all be after construction, and those intermediate hay bales or erosion control structures would stay there until it's stabilized, until it's all fully vegetated.
And
Then
what,
they would be
and what's the vegetation considered for that slope?
It's basically going to be a grassed slope with plantings. Landscape plan. Yeah, so
Bunch of pine.
this area here in back will basically be a grassed slope with additional plantings on it that basically the planning board requested. I believe some of those are some dogwoods, some clethra, and some white pines that were proposed above the retaining wall.
And another question for you is, the existing slope that's there, that's 2-to-1 now, isn't it? I
It's
believe?
basically, yeah, about that. It varies, but it's, if you've been to the site or seen it, it's
Right,
a
I did.
fairly steep slope on that side.
That's what I was gonna say. It seemed to me it was probably around a 2-to-1 now,
Yes.
but it's fully vegetated right now. I was kinda hoping you'd say, well, we're gonna cut the wall and keep the vegetation, because it's definitely stable. But,
Yeah, I mean, based on the trying to fit the building in and keep the retaining wall heights below 12 feet, we had to excavate back into the slope a little bit to make it all fit and make it all work.
okay. I have a couple other questions. I don't know, does anybody still have stuff on the slopes? Or?
So can you show me where the right-of-way is?
Let's see, yep.
And do we have a copy of the right-of-way document?
Can you address that?
I told Chris, if anyone brought it up, it was going to be you, Ed, the right-of-way, because that's the legal item. So, yeah, I went back and forth with DPW on this a couple times. I drafted a portion of the response that Atlantic provided. That's the right-of-way where it's shown on the kind of periphery of the site. You know, there is no document, though. So that was what kind of, I think, had DPW a bit twisted. They said, well, it needs to be extinguished, whose is it, et cetera. And the conclusion was, there's nothing in title, as far as we could find, that shows it exists. It's just shown on an old plan, which, by the way, was not an endorsed plan. It was just, someone put a plan on record that showed it. It was never, as far as I could tell, granted as an easement. There was no accompanying grant of easement or easement agreement. So I'm sure you would agree, showing a feature on a plan doesn't bring it into being. You need an agreement coupled with it to create
So
that.
usually what I do is I read the plan,
Yep.
and what does it say in relation? Who's benefiting from this right of way?
Well, that's the point. It was a very odd plan. It wasn't endorsed by the planning board. It was put on record, but there was no, typically you would see a notation, right? Note number 7, easement per, agreement dated January 5th, 1962. No note, nothing in the title about it. So it was kind of a stray. All I can surmise is that it was contemplated as an easement at some point and never put into effect.
What about a right of way for the benefit of the town for drainage?
You're asking if that's what this is?
I'm trying to figure out this right of way.
It was 50 feet wide, so that would be an awfully big, it's honestly a mystery. I scratched my head, I spent time looking for it, that, Mr. King's title company couldn't find anything, and, ultimately what I told the DPW is, I can't prove a negative, guys, I'm sorry, unfortunately, I can't find a document that says there's no easement. All I can tell you is, I can't find it, so, and again, Rich, like any.
Because the golden rule is you never build on a right of way.
Certainly, yeah, and again, I
And it
think.
doesn't look like the corner of that building's on the right of way?
Well, this is the existing conditions plan, so that's not the building, this is the cleared paved area, but, again, like any good.
Is there any of the building on the right of way?
Oh, the new building?
Yes.
I think so. But then, like any good engineer would, no, it's not actually, these are all landscape features here, or infrastructure.
So there's no building on the right of way?
Correct, here's the edge of the building, yeah, no,
Fine,
it's
fine.
off the right of way.
Fine, okay. And then, so, Jason, what do you think about the right of way? Are you all right just letting it slide? Because normally, if you're gonna do something, and we've had other petitions where we've modified plans to deal with the right of way. And we looked at if the town had an interest in keeping the right of way.
I don't have anything specific on this situation, but I would say that if, the DPW or the planning board thought it was an issue, they would have raised it, and I don't see it.
So they knew about it? I know the DPW did because you guys brought it up.
Again, I don't have anything specific. No one's brought it, this is the first I know of it or aware of it.
Tonight?
Yeah.
So you don't know about it?
No. As being an issue, and so if there is something there, whatever it might be, and the structure's not on it, if we had an easement or if we had some sort of right-of-way, and it's private, I would apply the setback to the lot line, not to the easement line.
So normally, it'd say we've had issues with other petitions, and we have the town weigh in and see what their interests are in the right-of-way before we allow anything happen on it. And like, there was a petition over at the Colony Place at one of the banks right by Santander, and things were modified so that it didn't disturb the town's rights. We'd probably want something, you're the town, basically, do you want?
Well, I can't see in this case that there's anyone representing that this right-of-way, if it does exist, is owned by the town.
It wouldn't be owned, it'd be for the benefit of. It's clearly not owned, and most right-of-ways are not owned. If it's by the
Right,
town, there
but
wouldn't be a
there's
need
no-
for a right-of-way.
I understand, but I guess, not to disagree,
I mean-
the petition is representing, there's no instrument to
All right.
give
So
instructions
but he's on
otherwise.
the other side, though, I'm
Well-
representing you.
No,
guys.
so I don't know what I could enforce if I don't have any language.
Well, let me take one more crack at it, being truly as objective as I could possibly be here.
Yes.
There's nothing to imply that that's a town right-of-way, right? I mean, the private right-of-ways, there's probably more than there are town right-of-ways, first of all. So I think that's speculation that it was ever intended to be for the benefit of the town. And again, even if we wanted to, with all our hearts, to extinguish it, I mean, Chris is going to make a huge investment constructing this thing. He certainly would be foolish to disregard it. there's really no way to extinguish something that doesn't exist. I mean, there's just no way to do it.
Have you ever seen a right-of-way that's by a public road for the benefit of any other people besides the town? Most of the right-of-ways that are behind like a major road, other streets, like rights away to the beaches, rights away to the woods, right away to cut across people's property,
Yeah.
that's private.
Right.
But normally, when I see right-of-ways that are along major roads are for the benefit of the town.
I'm not sure what to, I mean, look, I don't mean to disagree with you, but there's just nothing to, again, Rich's firm picked it up on some plan that was recorded because that's what any conservative PLS would do, but, you know, there's no documentation to support it, and again, you know, your guess is as good as
All right,
mine as to.
If Jason's okay with it, I'll drop it.
Yeah, I don't have any issue. I think being conservative, since the structure doesn't exist on top of it, that therein lies very little room for conflict.
And for what it's worth, I'll just, you know, it's not great, you know, I mean, Denise could always pull up a Google Earth or something, but if you look at where we are here, you know, it would be like through here. So there's nothing there. This is all undeveloped, wooded, privately owned property here. So again, whether there was an intention at one point to put a private, or for that matter, public right-of-way through here, it would be pure speculation. But just to give you your bearings, this is what we're talking about here. So, you know, it's not, you know, it would be shocking for anyone to come forth and claim they wanted to exercise that right. And if they did, again, the mere fact that it appeared on a plan doesn't bring it into existence.
Right.
So I'll go with what Jason says. And one more question for you, Jason. What are your thoughts about the 35-foot issue before us? And as Mr. Peck said, what type of calculations?
I thought they were creative.
Creative, excuse me, the creative.
They were creative in that they followed the letter of the bylaw, because I looked at that. But, so, you know, so I acknowledge that. But because the fire department asked for the roadway around it, you know, completely, so it's unlike the way I've seen it normally interpreted, where the building engages the contours. This has sort of created a footprint 12 feet wide or 14 feet wide all around the building, so it's no longer the building in the existing or adjusted contours. So, however, I
So
completely acknowledge it meets the letter
I only
of-
wanted to know what was your term. So Jason, in relation to the creative calculations, what do you feel?
No, it is an instrument. Height is a definition that is unique to every single municipality, that's calculated differently on every single municipality. And so therein lies the problem, that what looks like something is not so. So you could look at it and go, that looks 35 feet tall, but in one community, that's not 35 feet. That's, you know, some different calculations. So I think looking at the building and trying to get a feel for it and making that direct relationship to the number based on the calculation is a challenge. David even inferred that. It doesn't look like it, but it does meet it in his own kind of admission. And so that is absolutely true, that the number and the way that it looks does not always correspond, and that when the engineers run those calculations, they're able to use the specific definition and those relationships, those points of reference, to then use the in-between areas and then maybe dip down in between so that, you know, so that it still meets the requirement but gives a little extra facade, whatever it is. So it's common they stretch these to the limits. You know, obviously it changes the relief request as well. So it's,
But
Let me ask, I heard the explanation of the four corners. So what is the height measurement of each of the four corners? Mr. Kavaninsky.
We use the four corners of the building,
Correct?
not an access road going around it. We measured,
What is the height of the four corners?
well, the way it's done, where your bylaw's written, at the four corners, you measure what the existing grade is, and then average those. between all four sides of the building. That's what our calculations did.
And so all four of those came in at 35 feet or under?
Yeah, which is measured again, based on your bylaw, to the highest point of the roof beam underneath, inside the building. It's not necessarily measured to the top, it's measured to the highest point of the roof beam supporting the building. And that, right, in that instance, we calculated that at 33.43 feet.
So Rich, is that the underside of the bar joist?
Yes, yep.
So you could effectively have a 3 or 3.5 foot or whatever bar joist, the measurements to the bottom. If there's a small parapet on the outside of the roof for drainage issues and things like that, that would additionally extend beyond that. So it may meet the 35-foot definition, but if you were to take a tape measure, for lack of a better description, and measure it from the ground up, it would be significantly more.
Well, also, Jason, they have to certify the height. Yeah.
That's correct. That's correct. And it's a civil certification, meaning that,
Right.
that Rich and his group would certify that it meets the regulations, so that we don't have to guess, so that although it looks taller or it looks whatever, it's certified at the conclusion, and clearly they have the numbers, they have the definition. And I think,
And
you know,
it's to the 35 feet from the floor to the bottom of the bar joist.
well, it sounded like, and I don't have the definition in front of me, but it sounded like Rich's description was that the average grade of the four corners to the top of the roof, which is measured to the bottom of the joist, is the height of the building.
Yeah, that's-
As I said, I will acknowledge that using their assumption, it's 35 feet or less. But if you look at the elevation they showed us, it's anywhere from 40 to 42 feet. So standing in a field, that's what I'm saying, because it's surrounded, it in fact effectively is a 42-foot building. Were I voting, which I'm not, I would say, okay, they did it, they met the letter of the law. I'm mostly concerned, or continue to be concerned about the soils and but I wanted to point it out because it was, Jason just said it, the
And
different
that-
definitions and,
That's a very valid point. It is not a component of the relief tonight.
right.
And just if I may, there's really frankly no other way to calculate it. Unless you've got a perfectly flat lot, this is how you have to do it. This is what the bylaw requires. This wasn't us finding some loophole in the bylaw. I mean, this is the way it's done, is my understanding. So just to be clear.
Okay, anybody
I'm gonna, I did, like I say, I saw it earlier in the first round. They did send out the soil types and everything. You guys did send that in there. One thing I do have a question on though, too, is I see the wash bay in this place, right? And what does that consist of? I mean, is that gonna be just power washing, or is that a whole system? Do you know?
Chris, do you want me to ad lib here, or do you want to? Yeah, so again, Chris and I were kind of speaking during the last one, that the intention here is, when someone brings their boat in for the winter, they don't need to wrap them because they'll be stored indoors, but they can spray them down, so it's a wash down.
So it'll be a power washer, so it's done off an outlet, well, spigot, I guess you'd say. Well, the only reason I asked that was because we do have a water problem down there.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure this wasn't gonna be one of those big overhead sprayers that washes down the motor homes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and actually, it's funny, you mentioned the water balance program during
Right.
an earlier proceeding, and I asked Ben, I said, because we had talked about that probably back in July, and the DPW waived it in this case. I think they were of the view that the water use is so minimal that
Right.
they didn't even require that we participate in the water balance program, for what it's worth.
Okay, so that water balance program is in existence because of the
Yeah,
water problem?
I mean, I think it most typically would apply to residential, you know, that's the highest water use, but, you know, again, I did see, I think in one case, a bank that had 2 bathrooms, you know, they whacked them with some water balance surcharge, but it, you know, again, I'm not an expert in how they calculate it.
Yeah, no, I had a feeling it was, because I've never seen that on anything before.
Yeah.
So I knew it was a new program, I wasn't sure quite about what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have issues so much on the water. The other thing too is, DPW never said anything about a monitoring well out there?
You know, the only comments that came close to that were they expressed, I guess I'll call it concern about the fact that the adjacent site is a salvage yard. And they said,
Right.
you know, we recommend soil testing on that slope.
Exactly, I saw that.
Yeah, and my client's gonna do it. I mean, I think, you know, at first, we, you know, sort of said, no, there goes the DPW, but then really upon reflection, you know, I think that Mr. King said, you know what, it's for my benefit too. God forbid there is something in that soil and I'm stuck with it. So, yeah, he's gonna do the soil testing, which again was a recommendation, but, he's gonna do it. Even though he's had a phase 1, et cetera, he's gonna do that, soil testing to be safe.
Okay, yeah. So that's one thing that almost hasn't been settled with the DPW or what?
I think the comment is satisfied. Let me try to find the comment here. I think it's marked satisfied, Mr. Leary, but let me try to find these pages. Page 2, item 4, general comment 4. Let's see, sorry, these double-sided pages drive me crazy. Oh, here we go. Has any, so the DPW's initial comment was, has any soil testing been done within the excavation area? And then, again, the last comment was, comment acknowledged, we recommend that the applicant perform soil testing within the slope area to confirm no contamination exists. So, you know, comment acknowledged with a recommendation, but we're gonna take them up on that recommendation.
Okay. Well, you probably will if you're gonna remove the soil off-site anyway.
Well, right, but I mean, yeah, but if they found something, you know, limited action, they'd have to probably remove a heck of a lot more if they found something, you know, be a huge expense.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, I look at this, as far as the parking spaces, I think that's negligible. It's, you know, you'll never use them for sure. And the slope, well, let's put it this way, the 2-to-1 slope that's up there now is maintaining the vegetation and it's still, and it's stable, you know, because I went up there and walked it, it is stable. So I'm not sure I even have a problem with what you're doing there. But anyways, we'll go to other comments.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Hey, you have anything at this?
Simple, quick question. Rich, the fence around the property, how high is that?
The one at the top of the slope is a 4-foot chain link fence.
Ed?
So can you go over what's happening with the 1995 state highway layout? Our records, Cherry Street, per our records, Cherry Street transitions to state ownership at a point along adjacent to the proposed site front. So, comment not satisfied, and what does this mean?
Yeah, I was concerned about that.
That comment has been satisfied in the latest letter.
On the latest letter.
Trying to find the best.
So, okay, fine.
Pointer? Thanks. Yeah, the DPW had requested that we show on the site plans where the limit of the state highway ends. And if you look on sheet 3, actually it's on sheet 2 also, in sheet 3 of our plans, the state highway ends right in this location right here. Cherry Street is a town layout, so it's not a state layout, so, but it abuts a state layout in this area here for Route 44. So, on our site plans, it's actually not shown on this version of it. Let's see. So this area here is part of the state layout. Cherry Street is a town layout. And so we now show that on sheet 2 and on sheet 3 of our site plans, and that they were satisfied with that. Yeah, it's not affecting the site or it's not affecting the access or anything.
So it is for the 44 they cut in. I was assuming it was DOT has control, you know, on an exit, off of each one of the exits down a certain, that's what I thought they were referring to, no?
Yeah, no, it does, the actual right-of-way for Route 44, there's an area here, I think, from stormwater, but the actual off-ramps and everything that are north and south of this, the actual state layout ends like 1,000 or so
Yeah.
feet from our site.
Yeah, because when I read it, that's what I assumed they were talking about was DOT's control, not.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were talking about the layout, 44.
I have to agree with you. When we first got that comment, we were a little concerned that Cherry Street was a state layout, but it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Ed? Kevin?
Just one comment. We have done some different cases that had some weird kind of landscaping that we required. Some kind of a verification a year later or something that the,
2 years.
that it actually took hold.
Yeah,
And I'm just wondering if that would be a condition.
we can put that in
Where
there.
the slope is so crazy there, David, right? And that it actually worked, the
Yeah,
stabilization.
yeah, and it's usually a 2-year
2 years,
warranty.
okay, yeah.
So, yeah, that can easily be put in there, that at the end of 2 years, if the vegetation is not taken, they have to redo it. But we'll get into the conditions if we get that far. Have you anything else, Rob, that you would like to? Mr. D'Ambrosio? Have you anything else?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope. No, sir.
At this point, I'm going to open it up to public comment. In this vast audience, is there anybody that would like to speak? Don't hold back. Well, you missed your opportunity. Having no one speaking at public comment, I'm going to close that portion of this hearing and bring it back to the board for board discussion. First question I am going to ask is, Jason, do you have any concerns that you would like to talk about?
No, I think this is a straightforward petition. The angles of the slopes are certainly significant and relevant, and that as long as they're treated appropriately, I think, it can be handled well. The height is just, it's just the way that it is. It's the way
It
that it
is what it
goes.
is.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about that. And then the other element of the true relief is the parking, and I think that's been argued pretty well and supported pretty well. The reduction in parking won't make a significant issue at all. So probably your main focus is the slopes.
Well, everyone works on their boats on Saturdays and Sundays in June, maybe an issue in June, and when we're, but overall, in the month now, there's no one going to be there. It's going to be dead. So I think I'm not that concerned about the parking. When I was looking at the plan in relation to the right-of-way, there is an N-Star easement that's next door. And if I was a betting man, it probably relates to the N-Star easement next door. but it is, that's, I think I am concerned about the curves cutting in. We have a chunk removal place, or a storage place for cars, and I'm not thoroughly satisfied that I'm okay with that, with the edges being that deep. I'd like to hear some more what the board says, but I think that I can be swayed. So I think it's a very aggressive project, probably the most aggressive we've seen in a long time for slope. You know, look at what happened. We've been burned before, the slopes, an awful lot, where people say it's going to be fine. People tell us all the time traffic's going to be fine. And in particular slopes, people have lost their lives on slopes that we've seen, that we've made decisions over. So I'm not very comfortable about the slope issue at this point.
Okay. Yes.
I'm not as concerned with the slopes, given the monitoring that you're gonna be doing from the salvage yard, and the fact that you have a friendly abutter there that you can work with, so, though I understand your concerns, Ed, I don't share them.
Michael?
No, I'm okay. I don't agree with Ed right now about the right-of-way. Given the fact that Attorney Dambrusco has done his due diligence, and I think he said the applicant had a title company looked at, and they didn't come up with anything either.
And I'm okay with the right-of-way issue. I'm okay with it not
Oh.
being an issue.
You know what?
I'm okay with the right-of-way not being an issue.
Oh, I thought you were,
No, I looked into it, but I'm swayed. Rob did a good job advocating for his client, and I agree with him.
all right, okay. No, I think I'm okay, as long as we add a condition about the growth of the vegetation on the slope there.
Michael? What's your opinion?
Okay, like would never hold it back, right? Yeah, I mean, on the right-of-way, I don't have an issue anyways, it doesn't now. And my thing was, like you had stated when you were speaking, was, you know, he'd have to, whoever had one would have to come out with a document that would be at the registry of deeds somewhere, nobody could find it. I don't think that's an issue. As far as the parking, definitely, I don't believe that would even come close to being an issue. I don't think you're gonna use the parking you're supplying as it is.
No.
The slope, I went up there, I walked the slope, and I have a cane too, and I went up there, and to be honest, what's there now, I remember when they first left it and it was bare, you know, definitely was an enormous slope, but honestly, it's well vegetated. Nothing's moving. We've had torrential rains over the years, so I don't see the 2-to-1 actually being a problem out there. It has stabilized at what's there, and that is a 2-to-1. You know, and I think, you know, as far as what I've seen on the plans, I noticed you did have the riffraff down the other side. I think that's great. The wall, you had that in the plan too, so that's in there. I have no problems with it.
I guess I don't have any problems at all with it. I think it's a good use for the piece of property, and I think that the people that own the property have a right to utilize their property to the best of their abilities. And they're not asking us to do anything outrageous, so I support this petition. I would like to look at the conditions, and I want to add a condition that Peter asked for about a warranty on the plantings, so that we know that, and you understand, so that we know that those slopes will grow back, and that's just for everybody's safety. So you guys want to take a look at the conditions? You know, Peter, your request for a guarantee about the plantings,
Yeah.
that could probably be put in condition number 3.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Or 8?
But one of them could. We could, yeah, yeah.
So, whichever one you want.
Take your pick. I don't care.
Okay. We'll put it in 8.
8 sounds good.
All right.
So Buster, what do you think about the number 7 on the response on the Atlantic November 4th memo from Atlantic? It says the applicant must provide a monthly erosion control letter report stamped by a registered professional. Engineer stating the erosion control measures are still in place and that have been properly maintained. They must also state if any enforcement actions. So does that need to go as a condition? Okay.
I would think.
Yeah, I
Fine.
would think so.
Must be submitted. Yes, definitely. Anything else?
So we also spoke about monitoring, what do you say?
Monitoring, well, the town didn't seem to, they didn't mention that in any of their.
I'm just looking at number 1 on page 4, the DPW response.
Anything else?
No.
I await the board's pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. We approve case number 4136 with there's still 8, you just added it to the conditions. As
I
dis-
just
as
put it in
discussed.
with 8,
Right, that's, I mean, so
Yeah.
there's still only 8,
yes.
okay. 8 conditions is discussed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Leary to approve case number 4136 with 8 conditions. All those in favor? Four in favor, and you're against? Okay. It is a 4-to-1 vote. The vote passes. Go ahead. Okay, let's do this. We have a little bit more to take care of, an informal matter. And on case number 4137, Justin and Cook and Catherine Aruda, 18 Canterbury Drive. Who is here for them?
I'm thinking where it was so small, we didn't have to come back.
Okay. Are you did this case, are you happy that they?
Yes, they did satisfy it. It is in there. It's
Yes.
very small, but, yeah.
Yeah,
All legible, they have
It
added,
seems to me that it's small. I wrote right on here, plan size. Peter will remember why.
I do.
Oh, well. So I await a motion.
I'll make a motion that case number 4137 has satisfied condition number 3 as proposed.
All those in favor? Okay, it is a passed situation. This concludes the business. Oh, yes, we have minutes for, Michael, it's your turn.
Actually, do you have them out? I don't. So we have the minutes for October 21st. Any changes anybody sees?
I'm good, my name's spelled right.
Yeah, there you go.
Motion to approve.
David made a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second to approve.
Second, Pete. And the vote, everybody, do you approve?
We're all good.
Here we go. Yep.
All right, now, that concludes the business of the Zoning Board of Appeals for this evening, but I have one thing that I would like to say. I had something happen in my own life. My wife passed away a month ago, and this board and the people in this building have been outstanding. I just want to take the time to thank everybody that reached out. Now, that concludes our evening. Good night.